Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome to another edition of Cal's Corner Radio here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host, and the executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Folks, for those who are new to this program as well as those who tune in on a regular basis, my name is Kal Korff once again. I am your host, and we always cover everything from politics to the paranormal. That doesn't mean we cover all of that stuff in one episode. It's not possible. It's not long enough. But keep in mind that each episode is different, and it will cover a variety of subjects ranging, once again, from politics to the paranormal. Now, to cap off our first segment tonight, let me give you a quick update real quick on the lawsuit between Robert Kiviat, the famed Fox producer, and CIA disinformation scientist Ronald Pandolfi, Daniel Day Marriott, who's a former congressman, and yes, he is of the Marriott hotel chain family. And of course, the lawsuit from Kiviat is against entrepreneur Joseph Firmage and his company Internasa, which is a Utah business entity. The lawsuit has been filed, as we've mentioned. Kiviat has been kind enough to give Rob McConnell and myself the exclusive on this. And we mentioned, of course, that the lawsuit was filed. We mentioned there would be a case number issued. I'm going to give you that case number now, and then we're going to not update this story anymore until there's a major development, because it would be redundant. You can certainly listen to the various episodes that have been broadcast over the past several weeks. The links are on there, as well as the recent show that Rob has done, as well as earlier. Again, the case number is 30-2019-0105. 3880-CU-C0-C, J as in Justice, C as in Charles. If you need to repeat that, just go ahead and rewind the file here or tape, and then you can listen to it. So again, that's the case number, and it is going before Judge Martha K. Gooding. It was electronically filed in the Superior Court of California on February 26, 2019 at 1:42 in the afternoon and 56 seconds, according to the timestamp. All right, so enough about that. Now, one other comment, actually, before I close on that. Within about 10 days, Pandolfi and Company will be subpoenaed, and then again, whatever updates come, we will pass them along, but as is relevant and as news is worthy of being covered. We certainly wish Mr. Kiviat the best on this. All right, let's switch now to a different subject here, something very different. It can be summarized in one letter, Q. Now, when you think of the letter Q, what comes to mind? Well, in my mind, when I hear the letter Q, I think of the fictional Star Trek character Q that was wonderfully played by the actor who did it, whose name I don't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, I think of that character. I do love Star Trek. I'm a Trekker, I guess you could call me. Q. Well, on the internet, if you search for Q and you search in particular for images and things like that, and you type in other keywords as you search, you'll find words like conspiracy, Q. I would encourage you to type in the word Russians as well. The reason this is connected is because I've been asked by several people, what about this Q phenomenon that is popping up on the internet? To make a long story short, to kind of summarize what it is, it's kind of this bizarre social media thing that's been going on in a while, where there are references to Q. Now, it can be the shape of the letter Q in a photograph taken by a satellite or somebody with a selfie camera or some aerial shot of something. It can be a letter hidden in a message that somebody discovers. It's again, the letter Q that appears in all kinds of random, seemingly random off-the-wall places. And it encourages people who are into this idea that there's this Q conspiracy, this group of Illuminati type people who are getting together, who are working to manipulate society, and they're about to do some evil thing pretty soon where, entire mass numbers of people are going to be arrested, especially intellectuals and teachers and scientists, and they're going to be rounded up by the government in the United States by FEMA, for example. These rumors, started occurring. I remember them very vividly when Al Gore, there were rumors that Al Gore was going to be president, and that once he would be president, he would order FEMA to go ahead and go against, large companies and people who were against the unions, and the so-called environmental activism would become militant and so on. Because, Gore made no secret of how he felt about global warming and climate change, and if he became president against George Bush, which he did not, he would have made, of course, the environment and fighting greenhouse gases and climate change a key cornerstone of his administration. It never happened. Obama ended up leading that charge. It turns out right over a cliff on many occasions, unfortunately, but it wasn't Al Gore because he didn't win the presidency. So getting back to this issue of Q, to make a long story short, I will simply tell you this. If you think for 1 minute that the aliens, the space people or whatever, or some paranormal or, secret society or the Illuminati or Big Brother, whatever you want to call them, that's your business, your delusion, your fantasy. If you think they're behind this, well, you're way off base. In fact, I will tell you to simply do your homework. In fact, a lot of these so-called Q postings, they're simply coming from everyone ranging from simple, conspiracy nuts that live in their basement and, their parents throw them food, down on a tray, so to speak, or they are actually official cyber ops, counter espionage, or disinformation ops, if you will, launched by Russian cyber terrorists. They work for the government. These are some of the same people who went ahead and phished Hillary Clinton's, email server on many occasions, trying to hack it actually, and they certainly were successful in phishing the server of the Democratic National Party, as well as several of its members, including Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, John Podesta. Of course, those emails were later leaked, and yes, they did impact the campaign. They didn't prevent her from winning the White House. That was Hillary Clinton's fault, contrary to what she claims and, complains about. But independent of that, these Q postings, a lot of them, and especially the memes, are coming from Russian disinformation specialists. So get used to it, folks. This is not new. It might be that it's new that UFOs and the paranormal and these kind of subjects are being used today to stir up unrest, but it's nothing new itself as far as this tactic, this technique. They've been doing it for years. I would encourage you to go ahead and do a simple search through some of the government publications on cybersecurity. You will see some wonderful papers. I've read them. They're quite interesting. And of course, I love IT. I've been an IT guy for decades. And they clearly flagged Communist China, North Korea, and Russia, and Iran as the four biggest threats existential-wise to the West and the United States, and yes, even Canada, in the cyberspace, because these countries are becoming a lot more powerful in the internet space, and they have actual official policies from the leadership of these countries. And let's be honest, they're essentially dictatorships. Putin may be elected, but was the election really fair? Was there an election in North Korea? No. Was there in China? No, of course not. Was there in Iran? Not one that was free and fair, because of course the Ayatollahs are the ones who get to choose the candidates. How convenient. Anyway, in those four countries, they of course have stepped up their activities. The U.S. is constantly under cyber attack, especially from China, which has become increasingly emboldened. China really tested the United States during the Obama administration. And during the Obama administration, the largest number of secrets were stolen by China from the U.S., including the blueprints for the Joint Strike Fighter. And within a couple of years, guess what China was flying? Its own knockoff version of the JSF. And of course, they're still trying to work out the bugs today, but thanks to lax security oversight, and Obama not only inherited a mess, he didn't act fast enough to plug the holes. He admits that in retrospect after he's out of office, of course, and can't be held accountable like many politicians do. We're just lucky they admit anything in as far as being guilty. So now Trump has had to pick up the pieces, and there is a massive effort now to not only plug the security in computing, but to, engage on forward projection of cyber warfare. There was an interesting paper that I read yesterday from the Department of Defense. It emphasized that rather than, throw a bunch of technology at the Chinese and the Russians and the enemies of freedom and democracy to fight this problem, what they're doing instead is making a point to go after the people who want to come up with the algorithms to make sure that this forward and progressive, in the sense of proactive deployment, actually occurs. And it's a wonderful vision. It's very aggressive. And what it means, unlike the Obama administration, is that we're not going to wait till the enemy attacks us before we may take it out. And if you remember, one instance during the Obama administration is quite interesting. North Korea was acting up, and it was busted trying to hack into some military systems in the United States. Obama talked about it, issued a formal warning to North Korea. And then a couple of days later, the internet and a lot of computing systems in North Korea went dark for 3 days. That was the United States launching a massive counterattack of cyber warfare against that country. It worked. North Korea backed off, but it didn't stop what it was doing. But it did back off temporarily because, one, it had no choice. The systems were down. Two, the United States can go ahead and kick its you-know-what anytime it wants to. It just doesn't bother doing that. In my opinion, it should have a long time ago, but, it hasn't. Still hasn't to this date. And we'll come back to that after the commercial break here in a moment before we segue into other subjects. But real quickly, the bottom line is the United States is going after the people who can write the algorithms and put artificial intelligence and the use of this technology in the right places. And they know that at the end of the day, it all boils down to people, because without the competent people to, behind them, these machines can do nothing. All right, we'll be back after this commercial break.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shamans worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Welcome back to the second segment here on Cal's Corner Radio Show here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host. Once again, the executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Now, to finish off it regarding the issue of North Korea, as you know, there has been no real further progress since the so-called progress was first made about a year ago in the earlier summit between American President Donald Trump and, of course, the dictator of communist North Korea. And what has happened is, fast forward to today, and there's still no movement. We know of more facilities that we didn't know before of that existed, secret facilities where North Korea has been doing its rocket and missile development and weapons experiments and things like that. But other than that, it seems like it's a stalemate. So I've written a full-page special, which will appear in Daily World newspaper this Sunday, called Learning to Live with North Korea, because it appears, based on people I've interviewed who have connections to the intelligence community, including CIA, ironically, and yeah, they're not fans of Ron Pandolfi either, believe it or not. It's a small world, it turns out. They basically gave me some good information I put in the article. And the short version is this: it appears that North Korea is not going to disarm and there's nothing we can do about it. And my reaction is, duh, as long as Communist China protects their you-know-what. That's the reality of it, because Communist China wants North Korea to remain exactly what it is. It's essentially a sock puppet nation that it can use, like it does the country of Pakistan, to pester the West with. Essentially, the function of communist North Korea is to bother the you-know-what out of the West and the U.S. in particular, and also scare the you-know-what out of democratic and free South Korea. The last thing that Communist China wants is for Korea to reunify, and of course the idea of democracy and freedom just on the other side of Communist China's border. They don't like that idea. It's kind of obvious, and they've made no secret about it. In fact, during his speech, when he was declared essentially ruler for life or dictator for life in Communist China, Xi Jinping basically said that his idea of a stable government was not along the lines of Western freedom and democracy. That's not his idea of what's the right form of government. If he believed in it, he'd have that kind of system, but he doesn't. Instead, he believes in him being the almighty leader, the great leader, and that's exactly what he is. At least that's what they call him in Communist China. I don't consider him to be a great, as in a great man. I consider him to be a brutal tyrant and one of the worst human beings on the planet. He certainly has no respect for human rights, and I just wish, him the worst. I'm just being honest. Communism itself, as well as Communist China, the kind of government and tyranny that it has, I have no patience for apologists of that kind of system. All right, so that's an update on that front there. Now let's talk about some other issues here. In the United States, in the 2020 presidential race that is going to be coming up, and boy, is it going to be a doozy. We know, of course, that Donald Trump is going to be the incumbent unless something happens. And let's say that he is the opponent on the Republican side. Who's going to be the opponent on the Democratic side? Well, there's over a dozen different Democrats that are running for president so far. And the biggest candidate is in the one that is considered to be the overwhelming favorite, should he jump in, At least the buzz on him so far is former Vice President Joseph Biden. Now, whether that is going to prove to be true, should he finally get off his duff and jump in the race in a couple of weeks, sometime in April, people are wondering rightfully what the heck is keeping him so long. And if this is an example of decisive leadership, it isn't. It's kind of obvious. Biden has had 2 years to make this decision, essentially. What is keeping him? Well, until he jumps in, the picture of who the candidates are remains a bit murky as far as any potential front runners that are jumping to the front. Already you have two favored candidates. One, of course, is Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, and the other one is Joe Biden, but Biden is not officially declared. Apparently he will jump in soon. Sanders, of course, officially announced his candidacy weeks ago. Now, the latest person to also jump in is, of course, former Senator Congressman from El Paso, Texas. This would be a congressman, not senator, congressman, Beto O'Rourke. And people who are fans of him, they're called Beto maniacs. And I have to kind of laugh at that because I think it's ridiculous. Because if you look at what Beto O'Rourke is saying, he's saying basically that it's practically a quote that he was born to do this. Okay, so here's a guy who says he was born to be president. Well, okay, he's not the first person to say that or believe that of himself. But if that is the reason you're running, because you think you were born to be president, I'm sorry. If you want my vote, it's just my opinion, folks. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but it is my opinion. Take it or leave it. I think I'm not going to give you my vote. You need to give me some substance here, okay? Because you were born to do whatever, but that doesn't make you qualified. And I don't think he's qualified, so he's not going to get my vote. And when you ask him and his supporters, well, where does he stand on these various foreign policy issues? You might as well be talking to a rock because you'll get more answers. He has no clue. He admits he doesn't really have any clue about foreign policy, anything, because that just hasn't been his forte. And I just have to wonder about both the sanity and competence of anybody like him who would be clueless about foreign policy issues. And I'll tell you why. Here's a guy who has been in Congress for a couple of terms. What was he doing the whole time? Was he on the basket weaving committees and just totally living in a bubble? Does he even watch CNN, as biased as it is, especially against Trump? Where has he been? And then there were rumors, and he was playing coy with them. Let's be honest, he wasn't Mr. Innocent, that he was going to run for president anyway, even if he had won the Senate race against Ted Cruz, which he lost by a few percentage points. Give him credit for that. And let's be honest, Texas is on the verge of turning from red to purple, and then it will become blue. And then once it becomes blue, the Democrats will complete their conquest of the Electoral College map of the United States, and they'll be the only political party of consequence, even though there will be another token one on paper in power as a minority permanently. It's called the Republicans. And the reason this is happening is because of demographics. Demographics are killing the Republican Party faster and more efficiently than the Democrats are capable of doing it, because the Democrats are capable of just imploding and sinking their own ship. Just ask Hillary Clinton. She's the epitome of somebody who did that. It was a 96% certainty, according to New York Times experts, that she would just win a landslide victory against Trump. And didn't happen. All right, so back to Beto-omania, or Beto-mania. Beto O'Rourke is running for president, and he has absolutely no qualifications to do it. There are people who like him, and he's called the White Obama. Well, folks, you need to stop and say, I'm not going to have a piece of this. First of all, Obama does back him. Okay, he's excited by this guy. Whenever somebody says the white or the black or the Chinese or the Muslim or the Martian or Zeta Reticulan or Pleiadian, whatever, stop. Just end it. Just hang up on that person, or just terminate the conversation, or try to educate them if possible. Who cares what color their skin is? It's genetics. Or in the case of if someone says Pleiadians, it's just BS, okay? But the point is, it doesn't matter. He can be the white, the black, the Mexican, the whatever of whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is he qualified? Who cares what color his skin is? Again, that is genetics. The color of your skin doesn't make you smarter or more stupid. It just means you're whatever color your genes are. It just Works out, it's basic science. And again, if somebody says, well, he's a Pleiadian, then again, they're just full of you-know-what, brown stuff BS. So that's the reason I won't vote for him. I don't care what color he is. I don't think he's qualified. And if I were going to run for president, and I had 2 years to figure this out, and I lost the Senate race, barely, and I was going to run for president and announce that a couple of months later, whether I won or not the Senate race, I would at least learn something foreign policy-wise. That way, when I open my mouth on my big day, I've got something to say rather than leaving people scratching their heads. But that's not what veto maniacs do. They just think whatever this guy says is golden. And he just kind of reminds me of a Joel Osteen kind of guy. Feel good, go happy guy, former punk rocker. Okay, fine, give him his music credit, whatever. But somebody like Vladimir Putin, or the leader of communist China, or even tiny North Korea, as small of a power as that is, but as dangerous as it is, they would just eat this guy up for lunch. I mean, look what they did to Obama. And he was just a bored 2-year senator out of Illinois with really no experience again, and it really showed. Thank you. All right, so that is the latest person, and I think he's a clown, who is entering the Democratic race for president. What we will do after the commercial break is we'll examine a few of the others and talk about how the race is appearing to size up so far. We realize it's still early. Where it's going to get interesting and really focus quickly is after a couple of the primaries are held, because what will happen is there's going to be a series of these debates. They're going to include the media, of course, from all the networks except Fox, because that would be wrong, right? Why be inclusive? The Democrats don't like to do that. They just like to say that the Republicans are being exclusive and divisive. But when the Democrats bar Fox from having any representative to ask questions, including very credible journalists, then of course that isn't being exclusive or divisive or exclusionary. That's being visionary, progressive, and the right thing to do in the minds of the Democrats. That's how hypocritical they are, and it's one of the reasons I just can't stand them, and it's why I call them Dumbocrats. I get criticized for using that term. Some people who are Democrats tell me it's childish. I remind the people who criticized before that no, I'm being scientifically accurate, because when you do dumb things, you are a Dumbocrat. That's the reason I use it. Dumb is dumb. We'll be back after this commercial break.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by L.A. Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Welcome back to the third segment here on Cal's Corner Radio Show here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff, and I'm your host. And once again, the executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Now, we were talking about the phrase that I use called Dumbocrats when I'm describing dumb things that Democrats do. Now, let's look at the term dumb and when you call somebody dumb. Because today's world tends to be politically correct, which I think is stupid. I'm going to be very blunt with you, and I'm not a politically correct guy. I think that being politically correct is another way of saying I'm being phony. I remember the days when you could disagree with somebody and they didn't want to suddenly go to their safe space because they could take it on the chin, so to speak. They may not agree with you. They might push back verbally. You might agree to disagree, but at the end of the day, you walked away, and that was just the way life was. Welcome to America. Welcome to freedom of speech. Welcome to life itself. Now, we have a type of society led today by the Democratic Party because they tend to be Democrats. They tend to call themselves liberals. Now, that's an irony if there ever was one, because liberals and liberty means freedom. But look what happens when you exercise that freedom and dare to disagree with these people. Well, they suddenly start getting violent or advocating violent, or they try to contact their friends and the so-called social justice warriors. They try to gang up on you, bar you from having your job, harassing you at work, harassing you online, leaving a trail online that if somebody searched on you, if they were a potential employer, they would shudder and think, I don't think I want to hire this guy because look at all this crazy stuff he supposedly said and did. I mean, this really goes on, folks. And I know this because I myself have been a victim of it. And I'm not, saying boo-hoo me, not at all. Because although I don't take the nonsense that people say about me online seriously, because I know what I do, and I especially know what I do not do, I do know for a fact, because I've been the victim of it, that over the years and during my travels to different countries, the people who, make a blog that loves to attack me and has over the years, calling me an idiot and other names, never giving me credit for anything positive, because God forbid they should tell the truth, they've contacted past employers and have tried to get me fired. In fact, I remember the owner of Daily Post newspaper calling me into his office one day and laughing his ass off, saying, hey, would you believe they said this about you? And I asked him, I said, what would you say to them if they were sitting here? He said, I'd say one thing to them. I go by what I see, not by what I read. He says, I ran my background check on you before I hired you. No problem. And I still have in my file, my collection today, souvenir file from India, a letter from Indian intelligence vetting me. And I found that ironic. I wanted to send the CIA a copy because I've had a tough love relationship with that agency since I was a teenager because of FOIA issues over UFO cases. Anyway, getting back to the issue of Dumbocrats, I think it is not, demeaning somebody or acting like a child when you say, here's a Dumbocrat. This is a Democrat who has done a dumb thing. That's all I mean by it. I also use the term rethuglican. Rethuglican, Rethuglican. Well, what do you think a rethuglican is? It's a Republican who does thuggish things. When you have Republicans who are trying to cut people's health care, they're trying to cut their Social Security benefits for the elderly, the people who not only need that money but earned it, it's theirs. When they're trying to cut benefits for the veterans, or they're not giving them proper care, that's a thuggish thing to do. When they give tax cuts for the rich, that is a thuggish thing to do. In fact, I consider that to be a form of treason against one's own country, because you're certainly not working in the best interests of the people. Instead, you might as well call yourself a puppet of an oligarch. You're passing tax cuts for the rich because they help put you in power. It's wrong. You have to pass tax cuts for the majority of the people. You have to grow the middle class. Otherwise, you don't have a country over time. And that is what's happening to America and much of Europe. You know, Americans who are upset over the current status quo going on, and I don't blame them. They look at Europe as if it's some utopia, some model of financial stability. No, it's not. The gap between rich and poor is growing around the world, worldwide. I've seen it personally in India, even as that country reaches unprecedented levels of prosperity that it has never experienced as a nation. I see it firsthand in the United States. You know, I have a lot of friends in America, of course, and around the world. And in the 27 countries that I've had the privilege of either visiting or living in, I have friends in, of course, even more countries, but I have more friends outside the U.S. than I do inside the U.S., and I know a lot of people, thousands of people there. Again, the gap between the middle class and the poor, and the rich, is getting worse. You know, you have 1% of the world owns now 51% of the world's wealth. There was an article that came out yesterday, it was a headline on Drudge, that America now has more millionaires than there are people in the country of Sweden. There's over 10 million millionaires now in the U.S., more than there are Swedes in the country of Sweden. My first question is, where's that line and where can I get in it? Because I'm not part of those 10 million people, and neither are most of the people I know and will ever meet. And what you have is you have some serious days of reckoning coming, and because there are some serious problems that need to be addressed, and they were both created by the Democratic Party and the Republicans. It's both parties. It's no other third party. What's going to happen now is people are being asked and expected, voters, to continue to elect these two parties that have created all the problems, to re-elect them so that they can fix them. Okay? Yeah, that's really the dynamic that's going on. Now, let's look at the U.S. debt. It's about $22 trillion now, and it's rising. And it's the new deficit, of course, is going to raise it another $1 trillion. And the government experts, if you believe the Trump administration, it would be wise not to, because like previous, budget accounting offices and previous administrations, they tend to fudge the numbers in the ways that the president want them to be, to make the administration and its policies look good. They claim that the deficit will come down over time because of all this wonderful economic activity and stimulus and all that other stuff, from the trickle-down stuff, the mere pittance and peanuts that are going to drop off from the crumbs of the tables of the rich down to the middle class and the poor. They're going to spend that money and grow that economy. And that's not what's happening. Instead, a lot of people continue to lose their jobs, or what's happening is a lot of people are getting more than one job. This is an accounting trick that, the Obama administration was really good at. I was one of several journalists who used to criticize them over this. Obama used to talk about the number of jobs that he was creating while he was helping with the great economic recovery from the, let's admit it, the terrible economic disaster that he did inherit from the Bush administration. But in all fairness to that, we have to balance the scale here. It's only right to remember that while Obama was left with a mess from George W. Bush, yes, he was, no question, Bush inherited a mess just as bad. It was called the dot-com bubble burst from Bill Clinton. And that, of course, the Democrats don't want to talk about. Instead, they like to stress that Bill Clinton had a surplus, but they don't like to talk about the dot-com bubble burst. So Bush inherited that mess. There was 9/11. The result was the deficit went up to $10 trillion. Obama ran a campaign for president saying that it was irresponsible of any president to have a deficit that big. So what was the deficit when Obama left office after serving 2 terms? It was 20 trillion. It was another 10 trillion. And the apologists for Obama will say, well, that wasn't his fault because he inherited a mess. Well, so did Bush. But Bush's mess doesn't count. Obama's does. Well, that's just nonsense. It's uneven standards of evidence. Both presidents raked up debt. It was wrong. They could have done it better, but they didn't. So 20 trillion later, Trump inherits the office. He beats Hillary. And now we've got 22 trillion in debt and rising because he gives this great tax cut for the rich while screwing the middle class and the poor. And let's be blunt, that's true. And he is paying for it at the polls. On the other hand, the Democrats are just talented enough to be their own worst enemy and lose it. And here's an example of what I call another Dumbocrat move. Nancy Pelosi, who's the head of this party, she's again the Speaker of the House, Madam Speaker. Well, when she manages to get a sentence out coherently, and you can understand what she's saying, and she can actually stick to one subject for more than 3 seconds, she actually says, and has said, that she wants to lower the voting age to 16 in America. Now, can you imagine that, folks? You're sweet 16, you're in high school, and you get to help determine who the next president of the United States is going to be because you understand the issues. You're 16, you're sweet 16. They've written songs about that. Yeah, that's her idea. And she says, quote, it's important to capture kids in high school. Well, the word capture, folks, has more than one meaning, and it's not always positive. You know, when you kidnap someone, you capture them, okay? On the other hand, you can capture someone's heart like be in love. I don't think Nancy Pelosi means that definition. What she's trying to do is hijack the voting dynamics to expedite the rise and permanent entrenchment of the Democratic Party so that it becomes the only political party of consequence in the United States. And I know the Democrats will lie and deny and say, oh, no, we're not like that. We want fair and free elections and win the old-fashioned way, you know. Yeah, that's why they rigged it against Bernie Sanders with Hillary Clinton, and the head of the Democratic Party had to resign in disgrace over that scandal because the Democrats believe in free and fair competition. Yeah, right. We'll be back after this commercial break.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
SIMULTV.com.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
SIMULTV.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. SIMULTV.com.
Welcome to the fourth and final segment here on Cal's Corner Radio Show on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff, and I'm your host. Once again, the producer of the show, executive producer, is Rob McConnell. And we're talking about Dumbocrats, again, for the last time, I hope, although I know it's not going to be that case. When I say somebody's a Dumbocrat, I'm not trying to bemean them or hurt their feelings or belittle them or be condescending or be childish. No, I'm being scientifically accurate. If you're a Democrat and you do dumb things, you're a Dumbocrat. That's all I mean. Now, I don't think there's anything such as a smartocrat. Otherwise, I'd use that term. I think if somebody does a smart thing and they're a Democrat, they're being a good Democrat. Give them their kudos. But when they do dumb things, call them what they are, which is a Dumbocrat. So, as people who have heard me talk about politics for years, and I first expressed my views on this subject back from the Czech Republic many years ago in earlier versions of this show, I support neither the Democrats nor the Republicans. The reason I quit supporting the Democrats in the 1990s during the last part of the Clinton administration is because, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. They're no longer what they used to be, what made them what I think were great at one time. On the other hand, the Republicans, they've done the same thing. It's like the parties have switched roles. You know, we must remember that back in history, if it weren't for the Republicans, Abraham Lincoln would never have freed the slaves. That's a fact. It was the Democrats who started the Ku Klux Klan. But they don't want to talk about that today. In fact, the way they lie about history, you'd think the Republicans started that hate group. But no, they didn't. It was the Democrats. You would think that, today that the Democrats were the ones that, support, equality for blacks and the civil rights movement, and you'd think they invented gravity practically. But again, no, they didn't. Years ago, they didn't support this stuff, decades ago. They later championed it after a series of circumstances that largely forced them to, okay? When you had images on TV of black kids, teenagers, just ordinary people that are black, being hosed down violently for just standing there by, fire hoses, and you have German Shepherd attack dogs being sicked on them, and they're not doing anything wrong. They're not breaking the law. That is terrible. That is not what America is supposed to be about. I remember my mom telling me that she had gone down to New Orleans when she was a teenager out of high school, and she remembers seeing, when they went down there for Mardi Gras with her best friend, these signs showing segregation. Colored only, white only. Again, that's wrong. There's no question that when the Founding Fathers created America, as visionary as they were, as progressive as they were, and let's be honest, they were both visionary and progressive. Every country today is trying to copy America. Nobody's trying to copy India. Nobody's trying to copy China. Nobody's trying to copy Russia or Cuba or North Korea. Instead, they're all trying to copy America, even when they bash it in their propaganda. Anyway, getting back to the point, she remembers seeing this. So our Founding Fathers, as visionary as they were, when they said all men are created equal, let's be honest, they didn't really mean that at the time. We understood the spirit, but the implementation of that historic and humanitarian, game-changing, existential-changing reality didn't happen for a long time, because if you were black and you were a slave, you were a man. In their eyes, you were not created equal. Women were not viewed as being equals either. They didn't have the right to vote until It wasn't it was the century of the 1900s where they finally got the right to vote when they should have had it from day one. It should never have been a question because they're people. They're human beings. They happen to be female, but so what? But this is the way that America was. There was a civil war over the moral compass of the future of the United States. There was a civil rights movement in the Vietnam War and these other conflicts where the morality of the nation was being put on trial by its citizenry against its leadership and the schisms that would occur when there were disagreements. And then eventually there was a consensus. It may not have been at the time. It may have taken a generation or two later before it became a movement that changed things. That's happening now with the marijuana movement. You see, for years and even today, millions of people get arrested for, possession or smoking marijuana. Yet it's now legal in many states, remains illegal at the federal law level. They're working on fixing that. So again, you have a groundswell movement that eventually over time becomes change in a nation. This is just, again, one example. Another example, state of Oregon. They have now become the first state to pass rent control laws. Now, why would they do that? Are they trying to be socialists, oppressors, trying to be anti-capitalists, whatever you want to call it? Absolutely not. What the legislators are doing is they're responding to a reality that economically rents are out of control in Oregon. It is not a rich state. It doesn't even have a sales tax as a revenue source. If something is $1.99 in Oregon, there's no tax. It is $1.99. Not being a rich state, they have been able to get additional revenue by legalizing marijuana. They're earning a lot of money from doing that, like other states are. Okay, now they're about to legalize magic mushroom, same reasons. But again, rents are going out of control. So they now have a law capping it, okay? It is probably a movement that's going to spread to other states. The state that is ripe for rent control is California, because California's rents are out of control. There was news a few days ago that the average cost for a single studio apartment in San Francisco, which is the progressive capital of the world, right, is $3,700 a month. People don't have that kind of money to waste it, let's be honest, on that kind of small dwelling for that kind of money. California is the epitome of what the U.S. economy is becoming, which is an economy of the haves and the have-nots. California, for the first time, more people are leaving it than moving into it. So where are they going? They're going to neighboring Nevada. They're going up to the state of Washington, where rents are also spiraling out of control now because of it. And they're going to Texas, and they're going to Florida. Well, the Democrats want that. Let's be blunt about it. The reason they want it is because ultimately it will expedite extinguishing the Republican Party. And it doesn't matter that it's the Republican Party. I'm not saying this because I'm bleeding for the Republicans. I don't support the Republicans. I think what the Republicans have become, they're barbaric. They're inhumane today. The Republicans that I miss are the ones from Reagan or before, meaning very strong and reasonable on national defense. Let's give Reagan credit for breaking and helping end the Soviet Union and the Cold War. He deserves a Nobel Prize for that. He never got it, but he earned it. Millennials today, especially the ones who aren't sure that the earth is round, who think that vaccines cause autism, those stupid young people today, and that's what they are where it concerns those two issues, they have no idea what the Cold War was about and why they owe their very life in existence today to the fact that it's over and that we never had a third world war, which would have been nuclear and, of course, ended the human race. I miss the Republicans of the era of Eisenhower, where he cared about infrastructure, where he cared about how much the average family earned, where he wanted a strong defense, but he wouldn't give the military-industrial complex a blank check because he knew better. He knew war firsthand. He was commander-in-chief during World War II of the Allied forces. He slightly knew that subject. I miss that kind of Republican. If I had to pick two Republicans who I think would be great presidents, especially today, They would be Abraham Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt, not Franklin Roosevelt, but Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt stood up to big greedy companies and said, "You will not lock workers in all day like slaves. You will give them breaks. You will give them a capped 8-hour day. There will be overtime. You will get rid of these sweatshops." So now what do we do today? We make sure the sweatshops are in China, where China doesn't care. They love them because they get money for them. But we don't care because they're not our people, not our problem. But we still have them. But instead of being on American soil, we outsource the human rights issue and avoid it that way. So I miss the Republicans of the old school. Theodore Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, where are they? They haven't been around in my lifetime. The last great Republican, as far as I'm concerned, and I didn't always agree with him, was Ronald Reagan. As far as the Democrats go, well, I miss the Democrats of John Kennedy, and yes, even Lyndon Johnson. No, not Jimmy Carter, not Michael Dukakis, what a joke. And no, not John Kerry. Again, where are the good Democrats today? I don't support either party because, like most Americans now, I want a viable alternative. I want somebody who's going to come in and shake things up, and I may not agree with that person, but I think that some of the things that that person is calling for need to be done. I think we have to have universal health care. I think we have to have education that is free. Why should knowledge cost money? Why should knowledge that we're passing on to our future generations be priced in such a way that most people will never be able to attain it? That's not how to grow and make your nation more smart. And when I look at all the candidates who are running today, even though I dread the term socialism and socialist, because I know today that when it's being used, it's not really what these people mean. And this individual isn't using it like the younger people who are ignorant of what the term socialist means. But Bernie Sanders is the only candidate who seems to be able to talk about this in a semi-informed and educated manner. And his candidacy should be taken seriously, and we'll examine it next week and the positions of other candidates as the race for 2020 heats up for President of the United States. Thanks for joining me.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide. They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.